you, everyone. We'll call the House Tax Committee to order, please. First item of business is request for bill introductions. Yes, Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully this won't become a habit, but I do have a bill introduction. It's a sales tax exemption for Gage Park Memorial, Inc. And the RS is RS 0516, and I'm introducing it on behalf of a constituent.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? And I don't see anyone on WebEx with their hand raised. Seeing no questions, any objection to the introduction? Seeing none, it is introduced. Thank you, Representative Gardner. Representative Wassinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a bill introduction for the Kansas Chamber. I guess I'm too close. It is 21 RS 0297, and it's regarding apportionment by different entities.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? Seeing none, any objection to the request for introduction? Seeing none, it is introduced. Thank you, Representative Wassinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further bill introductions? Let me check on WebEx here just to be certain, and I'm not seeing any. Thank you, committee. We will move on to our next item. We will open up the hearing on House Bill 2070, and for an overview of House Bill 27, I would turn to our lead revisor, Adam Siebers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right, very good. House Bill 2070 was a bill. It was a bill that had been introduced last year or last biennium, so it should look familiar to many of you. What it does is, under Kansas statute, KSA 16A-2-403, it requires that any seller is barred from charging a surcharge on a card holder who elects to use a credit or debit card in lieu of payment when making a purchase. Of course, there are certain exceptions to this rule currently listed in statute, namely a lot of government entities and things like that. And what this bill does is it would expand the exception from mandate or preventing the surcharge from being imposed to also include Kansas private and out-of-state post-secondary educational institutions and private post-secondary educational institutions. So in effect, what the bill would do is it would allow these entities to levy an additional charge, the surcharge, in addition to the underlying amount, so they wouldn't have to roll into just one flat rate. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Adam. Committee, any questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Adam. Committee, I would turn your attention. We should have a fiscal note that essentially says there is no fiscal impact on state revenues or expenditures in your packet. And at this time, I would open up the proponent section of testimony. First on our list, I would like to welcome to committee Matt Lindsay, President of Kansas Independent College Association. Welcome to committee, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Matt Lindsay. I am the president of the Kansas Independent College Association. Thank you for the opportunity to come here to offer proponent testimony in favor of House Bill 2070. This is, as Adam mentioned, it is a mirror of what you all passed out unanimously last year and then was essentially lost due to the COVID pandemic sending us all sideways when that happened last spring. Let me give you a couple of pieces of background and then talk about the bill itself. Kansas's independent colleges, who I speak on behalf of, are the 20 not-for-profit colleges that are accredited. They offer undergraduate degrees, and they're all based in Kansas. So that includes the oldest two colleges in the state of Kansas, Baker University and Benedictine College, both founded in 1858. It includes the youngest college in the state, Mid-American Nazarene in Olathe, founded in 1966. It includes the first junior college in the state, which is now mostly a four-year school, Central Christian College in McPherson. It includes the first institution to admit African Americans and women, Friends University in Wichita. So there's a lot of history behind these 20 schools. They have been here for mostly a long time and have been engaged in the educational ecosystem of Kansas for a very long time. The state of Kansas, I wouldn't say unique, but in a rare structure, the Board of Regents has no governing or coordinating or regulatory oversight over these 20 institutions by design. These schools predate the existence of the Board of Regents, and so we are independent. That I in KICA means a lot, and and we honor that one pretty strictly. So we are in many ways outside of anything that happens here in statute that is beneficial to the public universities, which are governed by the Board of Regents, does not necessarily extend to the nonprofit colleges in the state. Which brings us to current law and why the reasons for 2070. When someone uses a credit card to make a purchase of any kind, most of you probably know this, the credit card company, American Express, Visa, et cetera, charges a surcharge to the merchant for the right to process that card and get paid. Kansas is one of just 10 states that don't allow merchants to pass that fee on to the person who makes that purchase to the end user. And Adam mentioned the statute there. In our region, Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska have all moved to allow merchants to choose to pass that fee on at their discretion. However, that prohibition exists in general, but the state grants an exemption to state agencies and public universities, including community colleges, to pass that fee on to those who choose to use a credit card to pay a tuition bill. And as you can imagine, there's an increase in the number of people, a number of families who are using a credit card to pay a tuition or a fee bill because, hey, I get miles, I get points. This is a big purchase. I could probably there's something I can get in addition. So if someone were to do that at KU can say, that's fine, but you need to pay an extra, whatever the percentage is that Visa is requiring us to pay if you want to use a credit card. Otherwise, you should pay with a check or cash like everyone else. For a school just down the road in Baldwin City, like Baker, they're not allowed to say that, and this bill would remedy that. So right now, Baker has to eat that fee. So whatever the fee is for all those students who use their credit card to pay their tuition bill, there's an additional amount that Baker is paying Visa and American Express and MasterCard and has to recoup somehow. For private colleges like the ones I represent, that comes either from donations, charity, cuts to spending, or raising tuition on everyone. And so this brings us to the reason why 2070 matters is, as currently situated, the law makes it so that our nonprofit colleges are on a significant competitive disadvantage against both the public universities in the state as well as the regional private colleges in Nebraska and Iowa and Missouri, who can pass that fee on to the end user of those cards and not make everyone's tuition go up. That's why I would say this is, you'll note in my testimony, that this is not a tuition increase bill. This is in fact an attempt to hold tuition down so that only those who choose to use a credit card, because they mostly would like to get the points and the miles, are the ones who pay the fee rather than every student who enrolls and pays tuition at these schools. We narrowly tailored our recommendations on this bill to make sure it is just expressing that the nonprofit colleges in the state should be treated equally to the public universities in the state because we are all engaged in educational endeavors and that the exemption should be broader than it is written. So with that, I encourage all of you to pass out HB 2070 favorably, and I'd be happy to stand for questions at the appropriate time. I know a couple of my college CFOs are here, one virtually and another who is on her way up right now. So maybe we go to Mr. Chairman, if we go to the one virtually first, that may be the best way to do that.
Okay, I would like to go ahead and move on, and we'll take questions at the very end, and that way whoever feels most appropriately suited to answer that question can do so. So if I heard you correctly, Mr. Lindsay, we will now move to Ronald Ollinger. Did I pronounce that correctly via WebEx? Ronald, are you with us, sir?
I am.
Okay, we can hear you. Go ahead, sir.
You okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if there's a lot I can add on what Matt Lindsay has spoken, but I will tell you that in last year alone, 32% of our tuition fees, room and board were paid with credit cards. You know, this and this resulted in about a $250,000 in payment to credit card companies, which represents about 10% of our annual fund donations for last year. So our annual fund donations are normally used to cover student scholarships and other operating costs of the college, and you know, so we've got to use those to cover this expense. We support HB 2070 that would grant us permission to do what the Regents Universities, Washburn, and the Kansas Community Colleges already can do. This isn't just about lost revenue for us, but ability to use those funds for student aid instead, but about competitive imbalance. You know, we just are asking for a level playing field. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Did Matt take off? Okay, I think we're looking for our other conferee, so we will sit tight for just a moment, committee. I guess we do have Mr. Ollinger here. Committee, or are there any specific questions for Mr. Ollinger? You can catch your breath for just a moment. Committee, and I apologize if I butcher this name, but please welcome Shelley Canovian, Chief Financial Officer with Baker University. Welcome to committee. Okay, I figured I'm good for something.
There you go. Can you hear me okay now? Oh, well, yeah. Okay, sorry about that. And sorry about the delay. I apologize. So my name is Shelley Knieven. Close, so close. And I'm the Vice President of Finance Administration. I'm totally out of breath from jogging here from the front entrance, so I apologize, but I'm glad to see that they're taking extra safety precautions, so that was good. So I'm here on behalf of Baker University as one university of many that are affected by the bill that's before your House committee. This is a bill that, as I understand it, would modify the tax code that would allow Baker, as well as other independent colleges, to pass on the credit card fees should somebody decide to pay their bill with a credit card. Obviously, that's not the only way that we allow people to pay their bill. They can write a check, they use financial aid, etc. We do have some people that actually come in and bring in cash, and so cash is, you know, certainly accepted. But for those people that want to use a debit card or a credit card, as it is right now, about 55% of all of our student accounts are people paying with a credit card. And it's just becoming more and more common as people use checks fewer and lesser and lesser. And so for Baker, this ends up being about $200,000 in an expense to our university, because under the current law, we're not able to pass along that fee as a convenience fee. And so we're here before you all to ask for your consideration of this bill, particularly at this time It's very difficult financially for small liberal arts, universities across the country, and that doesn't exclude Kansas. All of the universities, public and private, are struggling. The public universities already have this ability. This is something that just hasn't yet been extended to the private universities. So we are asking for your consideration of that. It is very tough financial times due to COVID. We've had an impact on our enrollment. Our students have been impacted. And so we've had some pretty serious revenue challenges this last year. And in fact, today and tomorrow we're going through a process where we actually eliminate some jobs. And so for us, the timing's critical because we're not unique to all of these other universities that are experiencing the same thing. And when we're looking at ways to reduce cost, keep our tuition more affordable, these are the kinds of things that would go a long way to help the university. And then it's up to the student, whether or not they want to use a credit card and pay the convenience fee, or they can still write a check. That's certainly fine, or go get a cashier's check, however it is that they want to do that. So we're just asking for your support and appreciate your attention and time. And I'm glad to answer any questions. And now I finally
Thank you. I do appreciate that. And you did great for being out of breath. Luckily, we're just on the 3rd floor, not the 5th.
Yeah, thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Committee, is there any questions of any of our conferees? Representative Wassinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a question, but I believe we ran this bill last year, or the year, I think it was last year, and it kind of got caught off. But it passed very easily our committee last year. So I don't see an issue with it this year unless there's some people that are against it. So thank you for coming and making the effort. We appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Sanders.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I think this question is probably best for Adam Siebers, but I'd like to know just a little bit of history about this. This seems like a no-brainer. Why are the region institutions excluded from this, and why do the independents, who are basically in the same endeavor, have to pass this along, or can't pass it along, I should say?
Thank you. Adam, do you have any history on the bill before us?
Mr. Chairman, I honestly don't know the complete history of this. What I could do is I could look through when the statute was adopted and things like that. To say that I just don't have anything beyond that at this point. I could try and look into it a little further, but I don't have anything right now.
So would it have something to do with the regent schools are considered state agencies and the independents are not?
I think it would probably be purely speculation right now, so we'll see if we can get an answer to that question prior to working the bill for further information. Mr. Lindsay, do you have any information regarding this or any insight?
No, I don't. I mean, this has been in statute since before I began doing this work, Representative. But I think the language of the existing exemption speaks to a government entity structure of those other institutions that would not be us. So I can only sort of speculate that that's related.
Thank you. Committee, further questions? We have one virtually from Representative Turner. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you, Chairman. I have a question for Mr. Lindsay, if he's still there.
Yes, he is coming up to the microphone.
Okay. In your testimony in the conclusion section, the last sentence of the paragraph says that the passage of HB 2070 would strengthen the competitive position of all of Kansas higher education institutions, including private colleges. Doesn't it? How does it change the competitive position of the public universities? Because they're already getting this, right? So doesn't it just change the privates?
I guess you could interpret my words that way and be, yes, I would argue that we are part of higher education, and thus strengthening all of higher education in the state of Kansas would be especially, in this case, for us.
Okay, yeah, I just was clarifying that it doesn't impact those already under this. It's just a you. Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
Committee, further questions? Representative Helgerson.
This is for Adam. Adam, if you don't mind, could you give us a little bit of history about cash discounts going to private businesses? It's my understanding we're not allowed, either with an agreement, either statutorily or with an agreement with the major credit card companies, to give cash discounts. And before we have the discussion on this bill, could you give us a little bit of a background on it?
Representative, are you referring to, I guess I don't quite grasp entirely what you're referring to as cash discounts. Could you elaborate a little bit further?
Some businesses are allowed to have cash discounts or give cash discounts when making purchases. I'm looking at not only in colleges, but if you talk about high schools and just private businesses, how does that interfere or change with the statutes or the contractual agreements that credit card companies have with users? Am I making it clear? Companies right now are not able to give a cash discount if you pay with cash or a credit card, or not with a credit card.
Representative, I'll have to look into that further. This is a little
Later
outside my,
we can
yeah.
talk after this.
Sure.
Representative Kelly.
Well, I was just going to say, I think Kansas is, a number of states don't have that. So in other states, you could go into a merchant, it wouldn't be a discount, but they could charge you a fee to use a card. In Kansas, you can't do that by the agreement you sign with the credit card company. So I think it would be probably a matter that from state to state, it could be legislated as far as whether you could give a discount or whether you couldn't. And Kansas, I know last year when this came up, I looked and I was surprised at the number of states that allowed this versus Kansas, which did not. I thought it was just at the time universal, that all states had an agreement and all companies with their credit card company that you had to charge the fee and you couldn't do anything, but that didn't turn out to be the case, I don't believe, in some states.
Did that further help you understand the question? Okay. It's always valuable to have all kinds of experience on the committee that can answer questions. Committee, any further questions? Representative Wassinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm waiting for someone to respond. But I believe that the Supreme Court ruled these surcharges restrictions unconstitutional in New York in 2017. So it sounds like it's very easily be challenged in court, that we don't allow them to pass on the surcharges.
Okay, I understand. Yes.
Did I say it wrong? I apologize. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Committee, any further questions? See none online and no further questions in the room. We will close the proponent section of the testimony, and I do not have any neutral or opposing testimony. Is there anyone wanting to appear neutral and provide neutral testimony? If there are none, is there any wishing to appear and provide opposing testimony? Seeing none, We will close the hearing on House Bill 2070. Committee, that does conclude our business for today. Tomorrow, we will be hearing Senate Bill 13, Property Tax Transparency Bill. I would tell you to pack a lunch, but it actually does not look like we have as much testimony as I had anticipated, so we should be out in our normal time, but we will have a pretty good amount of testimony on that hearing. Is there anything else that needs to come before the body?